So, Jaden Ivey. His speedy plays result in gimmies at the rim, he's controlled enough to dictate the pace and then get to where he wants, but if needed, he has the strength to power through any defense. Jaden Ivey is an interesting rookie, and although the Detroit Pistons are the worst team in the league right now, I believe he is definitely a shining light over there. Now I already know, a lot of you are going to harp on his efficiency and blah 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 blah, but when you're a rookie in the league, it takes time to adjust to the NBA and really find your footing, so you must take it with a grain of salt. For Ivey, he's a raw, athletic, talented player, but he does show some slight flashes of areas where he is a little more polished. Ivey's play on the court is far more valuable than what the stats show, and that's why the eye test is just important as the numbers game. Now, am I saying that all of Ivey's stats are subpar? Definitely not. Because when we dive right into what rookies are throwing out the most assists per game, Ivey is sitting at the #1 position with 5.1 assists per game at the time of recording this, and when we look at his potential assists per game, Ivey leads all rookies as well at 9.3 per game. So obviously this is an area where Ivey is thriving, and when we actually watch how he's dissecting the defense with his passing, you can see just how much potential he possesses as a floor general. Passes like this one versus the Rockets show how unselfish and how quickly Ivey can make a decision to get a teammate an easy bucket. And then to approach it a little differently, Ivey can be patient with his attack, and once getting to the paint, he can sneak in a pass right over the top of the defense for the Duren slam. So that's just a little glimpse into his passing, but notice that name Duren was just said. Well, when you bring up these two in the same conversation, things get quite interesting. Out of the top 3 teammates that have assisted Jalen Duren on the court, Ivey sets up Duren the most of all teammates with 55 assisted field goals. Now when you look at both of their play styles, you can automatically see how well they click together when on the court. Duren has solid off-ball movement, making himself available when his guys are attacking the paint, and with his mature play around the rim, this makes for easy buckets for him in close. If we dive in a little bit into Jalen's game inside, in the restricted area, Duren has converted 72% of his 278 field goal attempts, and then if you stay with me just a little bit more and we dive in just a little bit deeper, on all cutting layups and dunks, Duren has a 78% conversion rate across 56 field goal attempts this season. Now most of you are like, okay, he's very effective in the restricted area, which is good. But then some of you might wonder why I brought up the second point with his cutting layups and dunks into the equation. Well, with Ivey's attacking nature, it sinks the defense a lot of the time, which opens up many cutting lanes for his teammates. Now this only works because Ivey has good court vision, and then when you pair that with a player who has the IQ to cut around the rim and in the right spaces, this is where things get dangerous. You can see here, Ivey immediately attacks once receiving the pass, and as this happens, Duren is calling for the ball as the defenders close the gap, and Jaden threads the needle right through the middle for the easy two-handed flush. The chemistry between these two is already looking polished, and when you see Ivey dime up a left-handed pocket pass directly off the bounce to a rolling Duren, it shows you how skilled his passing can really be. It's not often rookies come into the league with the ability to set up teammates with ease, but with Ivey, he can make some of his passes look seamless. The relentless attacking style of his makes the defense collapse completely, and by being a step ahead of the defense, it allows Ivey to put it on the platter for one of his guys to go score. If you don't stop him before he gets rolling in that full court, then here comes these high-speed pursuits to the paint, and by changing directions in a quick manner, Ivey attracts not only Green, but Porter Jr. as well, and it's a slick no-look between the both of them for the Duren dunk. I mean, come on. It's basically like you have to pick your poison in these open court scenarios. You know Ivey is more than capable to go finish at the rim, but what makes it slightly harder for the defense to time the pass is that instead of giving it up early, Ivey will wait until almost the last second and then dump it off. Watch as the Nuggets pretty much force Ivey into a not so ideal situation, but Jaden Ivey says,
"Hold my beer,"
slices through the paint, and Duren punches it through. So as you can see, the fast break facilitating also leaks right into the half court as well, and this is where we can really key in on his court vision and awareness. As we will inspect more later on, his change of pace and control lets him get to where he wants to, and you can see this makes the defense gravitate towards Ivey, and before you can even react, he's feeding it through the middle for a Diallo reverse. Now if Ivey would have been moving at 100 miles per hour, that opening would have probably never presented itself, or he would have just missed it altogether. But by controlling the pace, it makes for more of these opportunities, and it's not just regular passes that he'll make after the defense shifts, as he can also take his time and lob it up perfectly over the top for Wiseman to put 2 on the board. A lot of the time, slashers can have a huge advantage when gaining assists because the defense is forced to rotate over when there's a threat coming to the rim, and that's why you see so many deliveries like this one under the basket, and even if it's not available right away, Ivey can wait until the defense fully commits and drop it off as well. Now this is just one dimension of it, and it practically leans on his ability to sink the defense, but when you see Ivey be able to slow it down, not driving full throttle, and zip it across the court, it can make you really raise your eyebrows a little. Coming up the floor on this play, Portland executes the 2-3 zone poorly, and as the cut happens on this backside, Dame has to step over to take it away, and with no hesitation directly off the bounce, Ivey door dashes this pass for the money corner 3. So off rip, you can see exactly how just by looking at the stats, you don't get the full story of how a player actually performs. Now, is this me saying Ivey doesn't make reckless passes or he doesn't turn it over from being sloppy? Nah, I'm not really saying that at all, because sure enough, he does have his struggles with turning it over and just being very careless with the ball. But for now, it's great to see this poise and decision making early in his career. But you know what the main thing that jumps out the screen to grab your attention is? What we all know is Ivey's freak athleticism when attacking the basket. And I mean, how could you even argue it? Ivey once stated that he models his game after Russell Westbrook and Ja Morant, and you can definitely see it translate on the court. When we look at Westbrook's stats in his rookie year through 82 games and compare what Ivey's through 70 games so far this season, you can see that both guard stats line up almost identical to one another. So yeah, to say he's destined to be a really good slasher is the least we could say, but to be a calculated, definite slashing threat is really what his potential is. Unlike a lot of slashing guards who use a lot of combos to break defenders down before attacking the paint, Ivey leans heavily on his sheer speed and forced to just beat the defense to the rack. Now let me paint the picture for you and really bring you into my world. If you ever play basketball, you maybe heard somebody say move north-south, not east-west, and Ivey is a prime example of that. If using a move or a combo is very quick and it leads to him going downhill, and if he's met at the rim, he's strong enough to play through the contact. It's even more deadly against bigs as Ivey doesn't take the traditional ISO for 7 to 8 seconds, then attack route. Instead, he just takes it right at Kessler's body, bounces off, and slips it right in off the glass for the easy and 1. Having less moves but being explosive makes it extremely hard for the defense to really get a footing, because instead of sliding left to right for a couple seconds, it's immediately backpedaling, and when Ivey's already coming at you with a head of steam, well, what can you really do at that point? I guess you could try to ride his hip and meet him at the rim, but sadly, you'll probably end up on another poster in town. Or if he wants to be more acrobatic instead, then he can just adjust in midair once a shot blocker comes his way, stay focused, and finish on the other side. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, this honestly looks a little basic, and we see this from even the most average guards in the league. Now look, I'd be lying if I said there was no validity to that statement, but how many guards do you see effectively split the screen with a swiftness and then go finish over a top 10 rim protector in the league? And when you watch him closely, you'll notice that Ivey has these uber quick gear shifts that make it look like the defense freezes for a second, and next thing you know, Ivey is soaring in for the bucket. So yeah, trust me, his driving is far from your average guard. From a numbers perspective, Ivey doesn't look like the best when you're judging him, but when you're solely using the eye test, you can see the massive upside with Ivey. Now, am I saying that you just forget about all the stats completely? No, not at all, because at a certain point, they are very key to judging a player. But when we talk about rookies, honestly, I'm not really harping on efficiency so much because mistakes will be made and it's expected for them not to perform that well immediately. To me, it's all about how well their motor is, do they have the passion, and do they look like they have a good base to build off of. For Jaden Ivey on a tanking, super pitiful Detroit Pistons team, it's hard to evaluate players in such a terrible situation, but for all the dreadful Piston games I've had to sit there and watch, Ivey has this factor to him that screams diamond in the rough. Let me know what you all think about Jaden Ivey, and how do you think his next couple years will go? Will his shooting improve? Will he convert better inside? Will he be less careless? Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like before heading over to watch this James Harden analysis. I thank you all for your support. It really means a lot to me. Let's continue to keep pushing. We almost have 5,000 subscribers. I'll see you all in the next video.